Have you ever wondered why sometimes, even when you're surrounded by people who care about you, a small part of you still feels like you're standing outside of your own life? It's as if you can see the warmth, hear the laughter, and even recognize the love that's being offered. Yet something deep inside still whispers that you're not really part of it. You smile, you talk, you do all the things that connection requires, but there's a thin layer of glass between you and the world, and you can't quite figure out how to step through it. We often tell ourselves that feeling this way is just part of getting older, that maybe it's because life has changed, or we've grown apart from people, or that stress and time have built invisible walls around us. But sometimes it goes deeper than that. Sometimes that quiet distance isn't about what's happening now. It's about what didn't happen back then. A childhood that didn't quite know how to make us feel seen or loved or safe enough to be fully ourselves. When love was uncertain or inconsistent, we learned how to live without it. We learned how to appear fine, how to fill the silence with strength, how to keep everything working. But beneath all that strength was a kind of loneliness we couldn't name, a longing for warmth that never felt completely ours to keep. And without realizing it, we carried that pattern into every stage of our lives. We grew into people who love deeply, but still wonder if love will stay. People who give endlessly, yet hesitate to receive. People who can hold everything together for everyone else, but find it hard to rest inside their own hearts. Carl Jung once wrote, "Where love rules, there's no will to power. When love is missing, power becomes survival. The power to stay in control, to appear composed, to protect what little safety we could find. We don't do it to be cold. We do it because somewhere along the way, our nervous system decided that love might not be safe, but control is." So tonight, this isn't about blaming the past or fixing yourself overnight. It's about gently understanding how these patterns began and learning how to trust warmth again, slowly and safely, without the need to prove that you deserve it. Because what once felt like a permanent way of being is often just an old rhythm the heart learned long ago. And every rhythm, no matter how deeply it's wired, can be softened and rewritten. There's a kind of strength that everyone praises, the strength to stay calm when things fall apart, to manage pain quietly, to keep showing up no matter how heavy life becomes. From the outside, it looks admirable. People say, "You're so strong," and you nod because you've been that way for as long as you can remember. But inside, something doesn't feel like strength. It feels like holding your breath for years. Many of us grew up believing that love was something we had to earn, through good behavior, perfect grades, or being the one who never caused trouble. So we learned to hide our needs. We became reliable, independent, capable. We learned that if we didn't expect too much, we wouldn't be disappointed. And in a world that rewards resilience, this seemed like wisdom. Yet, over time, that same strength starts to feel like distance. We keep everything under control, but we don't feel free. We take care of everyone else, but we rarely let anyone take care of us. The armor that once kept us safe now keeps tenderness out. It's as if we built a beautiful wall and forgot the door. This kind of self-protection doesn't announce itself loudly. It lives in small habits, in the way we downplay our pain because we don't want to burden anyone, in how we change the subject when someone asks how we really feel, in the quiet relief we feel when no one notices we're struggling, because not being seen feels safer than being misunderstood. What we often call independence is sometimes the echo of early loneliness. It's the child inside us saying, "I won't ask again. I'll handle it myself." And even as adults, that echo still guides our choices, shaping how close we let people come. But here's the truth that starts to change everything. Real strength isn't built from silence or self-denial. Real strength begins when we allow ourselves to need, to ask, to soften, when we understand that vulnerability isn't a weakness, but a doorway back to connection. As we move forward, we'll look deeper into this transformation, how the body remembers those early lessons about love and safety, and how awareness can begin to rewrite them from the inside out. Even when we tell ourselves the past is behind us, the body has its own kind of memory. It doesn't store events like a timeline. It stores feelings. It remembers the tone of a parent's silence, the weight of waiting for affection that never came, the quickened heartbeat that learned to sense tension before words were even spoken. And over the years, that memory becomes a language, one we speak without realizing. When love or comfort felt unpredictable, our nervous system adapted by staying alert. It learned to read every small signal, every change in someone's face, every shift in tone. That hyper-awareness helped us survive as children because it kept us prepared for disappointment. But as adults, it can make peace feel unfamiliar. When someone is kind, we wait for the moment it turns. When life feels calm, we unconsciously start looking for what might go wrong. Our body believes it's protecting us, even when the danger is long gone. You can feel it in those quiet moments before sleep, when your heart races for no clear reason. You can sense it in relationships that seem safe, yet still make you brace for loss. You can hear it in the inner dialogue that whispers, "Don't get too comfortable. It never lasts." This isn't overreaction or weakness. It's the body's wisdom, trying to keep us safe with the only rules it knows. But those rules were written in a different time, in a different home, and they don't fit the life we're trying to build now. Healing begins when we learn to recognize these signals for what they are. Not warnings, but echoes. When anxiety rises without cause, instead of fighting it, we can say, "Thank you for trying to protect me. I'm safe now." Each time we do this, the body begins to trust the present moment a little more. It starts to believe that warmth can stay, that peace doesn't mean danger, and that not every silence hides rejection. It takes time, and that's okay, because the goal isn't to erase what happened, it's to teach our body a new ending, one where safety isn't earned through vigilance, but remembered through stillness. In the next part, we'll explore how these old, emotional blueprints quietly shape our relationships, why even deep love can feel uncertain, and how to recognize when your heart is confusing familiarity with connection. It's strange how the heart can confuse comfort with closeness. We often mistake familiar pain for safe love, simply because it feels like something we already understand. The nervous system isn't looking for joy, it's looking for what it recognizes, and if what it recognizes is inconsistency, silence, or walking on emotional eggshells, then that's what feels like home. Many of us grew up in environments where love was mixed with tension. Sometimes it was love that came with conditions, where being good meant being accepted, and making mistakes meant feeling invisible. Sometimes it was love that appeared and disappeared without warning, like weather that changed without reason. When we grow up in that kind of climate, we unconsciously start chasing that same rhythm in adulthood. We find ourselves drawn to people who mirror the unpredictability we once knew. We tell ourselves it's chemistry, but often it's recognition, our past wearing a new face. We might choose partners who keep us guessing because stillness feels foreign. Or we might become the caretakers, the ones who overgive, overthink, and over apologize, hoping that this time love will stay if we just do everything right. But no amount of giving can make unsafe love safe. It only exhausts us while deepening the pattern we're trying to escape. It's not that we seek suffering, it's that our body is still loyal to the map it learned in childhood. It's trying to find the ending that never happened, the moment when love becomes steady and finally stays. That's why the same emotional story keeps repeating, no matter how different the people or the situation seem. Until we rewrite that internal map, we'll keep walking in circles, mistaking the ache of familiarity for the warmth of belonging. Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." That's what this pattern truly is. Not bad luck, not failure, but the unconscious trying to finish an old story. When we begin to see it clearly, something changes. The spell breaks. We start to pause before chasing the same emotional dynamic again. We begin to ask, is this connection peaceful or just familiar? Does this person make me feel calm or merely occupied? Those questions are the first cracks in the old pattern. They open the space where real love, quiet, steady, unhurried, can finally enter. When we spend years surviving, the body forgets what safety feels like. We start mistaking alertness for awareness, tension for presence, and exhaustion for strength. We don't do this on purpose, it's simply the only rhythm we've ever known. For a long time, being careful was how we stayed connected. We learned to read other people's moods before they spoke, to fix problems before they happened, and to soften our words so no one would turn away. It was survival, quiet, intelligent, and necessary. But survival has a side effect. It doesn't know when the war is over. Even when life becomes peaceful, the nervous system keeps scanning for danger. That's why so many of us struggle to relax, even in moments that should feel safe. We finally have what we thought we wanted: love, stability, calm. Yet something inside still whispers, "Stay ready." This is where healing begins to look different. Because healing isn't about forcing yourself to relax or pretending you're fine. It's about helping your body learn that safety doesn't need to be earned anymore. It's about slowly teaching your heart that stillness isn't the prelude to pain. That process can be quiet. It might start with something as small as letting yourself breathe deeply without rushing to the next task. It might mean sitting with someone who loves you and not filling every silence with reassurance. It might mean noticing when you tense up and saying to yourself, "It's okay to let go now. There's no danger here." Every time you do that, you're sending your body a new message. That peace is not the same as vulnerability, and calm is not the same as emptiness. At first, it feels uncomfortable, almost foreign. Safety can even feel boring to someone who grew up around chaos. But with patience, it begins to settle in. The body starts to understand that love can be soft and consistent, that connection doesn't have to be dramatic to be real. We can't think our way into this kind of healing. We have to feel our way into it. And feeling takes time. But one day, you notice something subtle. The same silence that used to make you anxious now feels like space to breathe. The same calm that once felt hollow now feels like home. When we begin to feel safe within ourselves, love starts to look different. It no longer comes from urgency or fear of loss. It begins to flow from stillness, a kind of quiet confidence that says, "I can give without disappearing, and I can receive without guilt." This is the kind of love that grows from peace, not performance. For many of us, the earliest version of love was tied to effort. We had to be pleasing, useful, or needed to feel accepted. So naturally, as adults, we try to earn affection the same way, by overgiving, over-explaining, or trying to keep everyone around us comfortable. But when love grows from peace, it no longer requires proof. It becomes less about what we do and more about what we allow. We begin to realize that genuine love isn't loud. It's steady. It doesn't need to chase or convince. It simply stays. This shift can feel disorienting at first, especially for those of us who have always equated intensity with intimacy. When someone offers calm, consistent love, it might feel strange, almost too quiet. Part of us waits for the sudden change, for the storm that used to follow the sunshine. But with time, we start to understand that this quiet is not a warning. It's what safety sounds like. And from that safety, a new kind of love takes shape. Not one that consumes, but one that nourishes. It's found in the simple things, in being listened to without interruption, in sharing silence without discomfort, in knowing that you don't have to shrink to be accepted. This kind of love doesn't rescue you from loneliness. It teaches you how to sit beside it with compassion until it softens into peace. What makes it so powerful is that it begins inside you before it ever finds another person. When we stop treating love as something we have to earn, we start building it from within. We become the safe place we always long to find. And from that place, every connection we create becomes more genuine, not rooted in fear of abandonment, but in mutual presence and choice. You can feel it in the small moments, when you can finally rest without guilt, when you stop overthinking every message, when silence feels gentle instead of punishing. That's what love from peace feels like. It's not dramatic. It doesn't need to prove itself. It simply breathes, quietly and consistently. In the next segment, we'll explore how this peace begins to rebuild our sense of identity, how we move from defining ourselves by survival and self-protection to becoming someone who truly feels at home in their own life. There's a moment in healing when you begin to realize that home isn't a place you find outside of you. It's something you learn to build within. For so long, many of us searched for belonging in other people's warmth, in their approval, in the way they saw us. We thought if someone finally stayed, if they finally understood, then the ache inside would quiet down. But true belonging begins the moment you stop waiting for someone else to give it to you. Becoming at home in yourself doesn't mean closing off from the world or never needing anyone again. It means learning how to meet your own heart with the same patience and care you once reserved for everyone else. It's sitting with your feelings without rushing to fix them, and realizing that your emotions, even the heavy ones, are not your enemies. They are signals from the parts of you that have been waiting to be acknowledged. For years, those parts were busy surviving. They learned how to adapt, how to perform, how to stay quiet to keep peace. But underneath all of that effort is a voice that keeps whispering, "I want to rest. I want to be seen without earning it." Listening to that voice is what turns survival into self-connection. It's what transforms self-awareness into self-trust. Jung once said, "Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens." That awakening isn't sudden or grand. It's slow and steady, like light spreading across a dark room. At first it feels unfamiliar, even lonely, because you're no longer depending on the old patterns that once defined your worth. But as you spend more time with yourself, the loneliness begins to shift. You start to notice small signs of comfort, how peaceful it feels to be alone without feeling empty, how natural it becomes to say no without guilt, how deeply satisfying it is to be honest with yourself. And with that honesty comes clarity. You begin to see which connections drain you and which ones bring you back to life. You stop chasing love that feels uncertain, because you finally understand that love should never feel like constant waiting. Instead of asking, "Who will choose me?" you begin to ask, "Who feels peaceful to love?" That one question changes everything. To be at home in yourself is not a destination. It's a daily relationship. It's the choice to return, again and again, to the truth that your worth was never something to prove. You've simply been learning to remember it. There's a quiet kind of freedom that arrives only after forgiveness. Not the kind we rush toward, or the one that sounds neat and spiritual in words, but the real kind, the kind that grows slowly inside the space where blame used to live. It doesn't start with forgiving others. It begins with forgiving ourselves, for the years we didn't know better, for the times we settled, for the way we kept running toward love that hurt simply because it felt familiar. For a long time, we think forgiveness means excusing what happened or pretending it didn't matter. But real forgiveness doesn't erase the past. It simply releases its hold on the present. It's the understanding that what shaped us doesn't have to keep defining us. We can see where the pain came from without letting it become who we are. That realization changes how we see the people who couldn't love us the way we needed. We stop idealizing them, but we also stop hating them. We start to understand that they too were shaped by their own silences, by the parents who didn't know how to express warmth, by the world that told them love was something to earn. Recognizing that doesn't justify their actions, but it helps us see the full picture. And in that wider view, compassion has room to grow. Forgiveness, in this deeper sense, is less about reconciliation and more about reclamation. It's the moment we reclaim the energy we've spent replaying old stories. It's the day we stop waiting for apologies that will never come. It's the choice to no longer measure our worth by the love we didn't receive. When we forgive ourselves, something softens inside. The inner critic, the one who has been repeating the old family voices, starts to lose its power. We stop trying to rewrite the past through perfection. We stop needing to prove that we were good enough all along. Instead, we begin to live from a place that doesn't need to explain or defend, a place that simply is. And this is where true freedom takes root. It's not dramatic or loud. It's a quiet confidence that grows when you realize that the story no longer owns you. You can think about your past without getting lost in it. You can remember without reliving. You can even feel the ache and still know peace underneath it. Forgiveness, then, isn't an ending. It's a turning point, the moment you stop walking in circles around the same old wound and finally start moving forward into your own life. In the next segment, we'll explore what that new life feels like, how freedom becomes a daily practice of peace, boundaries, and self-respect, and how we begin to create relationships that reflect the love we've finally learned to give ourselves. When we begin to live from forgiveness, something subtle but powerful happens. Life starts to feel lighter, not because everything is perfect, but because we're no longer carrying what was never ours to hold. It's like setting down a heavy suitcase you forgot you were carrying, and suddenly realizing how much easier it is to move. For the first time in years, the present moment begins to feel spacious. You start noticing small, ordinary things that once went unseen. The sound of rain, the quiet after a long day, the warmth in your own laughter. These simple moments become sacred because they remind you that peace doesn't have to be earned. It's already here, waiting beneath the noise. Living as the free and whole self doesn't mean you never feel pain again. It means pain no longer decides the story. You can feel sadness without collapsing into shame. You can experience loneliness without believing you're unlovable. You can hold joy without waiting for it to vanish. Your emotions stop being threats and become messengers, signals of your humanity, not evidence of your brokenness. You begin to trust your own rhythm. You start saying yes only when you mean it, and no without guilt. You stop explaining your worth in conversations that no longer deserve your energy, and that quiet self-trust begins to ripple outward, shaping how you love, how you work, how you rest, and how you choose the people around you. The relationships you create now look different. They don't revolve around fixing or proving. They're grounded in mutual respect and gentle honesty. You no longer chase after chaos disguised as passion because you've learned that peace is not boredom, it's balance. And when you meet someone who mirrors that same calm, your heart recognizes it not as danger, but as home. This new life doesn't arrive all at once. It grows slowly through choices that seem small, but change everything, keeping a promise to yourself, resting when you need to, speaking kindly when the old voice of judgment appears. Each act of care is a message to your younger self. We made it, and we're safe now. You start living with an ease that doesn't need to impress anyone. You laugh more freely, you love more steadily, and you stop waiting for permission to be who you are. This is what it means to live as the free and whole self, not flawless, but real, not untouched by the past, but no longer defined by it. Healing isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself in big moments or sudden transformations. It happens quietly, in the mornings when you wake up and realize your first thought isn't dread, in the nights when you feel at peace in your own company, in the days when you notice how gently you speak to yourself after making a mistake. That is what growth looks like. Not dramatic, but deeply alive. When you begin to love yourself in this quiet way, something beautiful starts to ripple outward. The people around you feel it, the calm in your presence, the steadiness in your voice, the way you no longer rush to fill every silence or fix every problem. You stop chasing love that hurts and start attracting love that heals. And the world around you begins to shift, not because it changed, but because you did. This kind of self-love isn't about constant affirmation or pretending to be happy. It's about respect for your time, your energy, your emotions, and your truth. It's choosing peace even when chaos tries to pull you back. It's remembering that gentleness is a kind of power, and that setting boundaries is an act of love, not rejection. You become the person your younger self was waiting for, the one who listens without judgment, who doesn't walk away when feelings get heavy, who knows that strength can also mean softness, and that becomes your quiet revolution. Because every healed person subtly teaches the world what love is supposed to feel like: calm, consistent, safe. This is what Jung meant when he said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." Becoming yourself isn't a single moment of awakening. It's a lifelong remembering. It's returning again and again to the truth that you were never broken, only protecting yourself in the best way you knew. And now, you're learning a new way. A way built on stillness instead of survival, on connection instead of control, on presence instead of performance. A life where love doesn't have to be earned, and peace isn't something rare. It's the ground you stand on. So if you've been standing outside that warm house your whole life, looking in through the glass, maybe now is the time to turn the handle and walk through the door. Not as someone begging to be let in, but as someone who finally understands. You belong there, because you always have. If this message spoke to you, consider joining us. This small growing corner of people who are learning to love with awareness, to heal with patience, and to live from peace rather than pain. Subscribe not just to watch more videos, but to walk this path together, one honest conversation at a time.